So good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm Khadija Rahman Kanji, Assistant Professor, Department of Business Administration, and moderator for these events. And I would like to welcome you all to this e-panel discussion on social business for 3.0, no poverty, no unemployment, and no net carbon emissions. So this program is organized by Virtual International Social Business Summer Program ISBSP 2020, Daffodil International University. I'm delighted to announce the panelists of today's e-panel discussion. We have with us Mr. Mohammad Ashraful Hassan, Managing Director, Grameen Telecom, Bangladesh. Welcome, sir. We have with us Dr. Faiz Shah, Director, Yunus Center, Asian Institute of Technology, AIT, Bangkok, Thailand. Welcome, sir. We have with us Dr. Marthai, Director, Social Business Creation Competition, HEC, Montreal, Canada. Welcome, ma'am. And we have with us Professor Dr. Muhammad Masoom Iqbal, Director, Yunus Social Business Center, and Dean, Faculty of Business and Entrepreneurship, Daffodil International University. Welcome, sir. Again, I welcome you all, and I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. As it is known to all that social business was defined by Nobel laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus, and you all know that today's panel discussion topic focused on world of three zeros, a world with no poverty, no unemployment, and no net carbon emissions. The three most important SDGs. So once poverty is gone, we will need to build a museum to display its horror to future generations. This is the vision of Professor Mohammed Yunus. It is also a vision of the UN members state that created the Sustainable Development Goals. So on these points, I would like to ask Mr. Muhammad Ashraful Hassan, sir, what do you think about the actual cause of poverty and how technology has opened the possibility for Bangladeshi women to lift themselves out of poverty by micro-entrepreneurship? Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tansi. This is good morning from Dhaka. So I am delighted to be here today to say a few. So, causes of poverty is a very wide ranges, and it varies from countries to countries. Actually, Professor Yunus is telling that poverty is not created by the poor; it is created by the systems. So I just. Are you hearing from me?
Yes, sir, we hear you. Can hear you.
So
we can hear you very clearly, sir.
Causes of poverty. The main some things is like inequality and marginalization is one of the causes. Gender inequality to prevent women from the contributing to the economic activities. Another one is a conflict. You know, the conflict is one of the most common risk driving poverty today. If you look at the Syria, then you can see more than 80% peoples is now living below the poverty line. Another issue issues is hunger, malnutrition is another causes. You might think the poverty causes hunger, but hunger is also a causes and a maintainer of the poverty. So if someone has no food, he has no strength, energy for work, so his income will be less. Even for the malnutrition, he will get sick. So he cannot come out from the poverty. Some areas like poor healthcare systems, especially for the mother and child care, you know, the peoples, most of the countries like us, we are paying our treatment cost by ourselves. Even in Bangladesh, we are paying 70% treatment cost from our own pocket. Government contribution is less. If the poor peoples have some diseases or himself or their family members, then how they will get this money? So they will sell their asset or they'll lend money from the land shaker, and they will go more and more poor due to the treatment cost as well. Lack of no access of water. Drinking water is another problem, sanitation and hygiene. 2 billion people in the world have no access or limited access for the drinking water. Even the girls and women, they're wasting more than 200 million hours a day to bring water from distance area from their house. So if they use this amount of working hour to income generation activities, they can come out from the poverty. This is one kind of causes of poverty as well. So climate changes is another big issues. The climate changes creates a hunger. Little water is a drought and more water is a flood. Nowadays in Bangladesh, you have seen that more than 50% of our country areas is inundated by the flood. So what is the result of this flood? Each and every year there is a flood, but sometimes it is a severe flood. So every year we are affected. Due to the climate changes, this is coming. So they are losing, the poor people are losing their assets, house, and also the livestock and everything. So they are becoming more poor due to the climate changes. This is actually if we just think on it, this 3-0 we are talking about, 1-0 is net carbon emission, should be 0. Otherwise, we cannot come out from this type of natural disaster. Lack of education. I am not saying that everyone is living in extreme poverty without education. But most of the extreme poor don't have education. That if you have no education, you will not get job. Even self-employment is not possible because you need to compete with others. So you need to have some knowledge. So due to lack of education, the poverty is there. Poor infrastructure. Even in rural areas, there is no road, no transportation system. So if you work from far away, far distance from your house, you need to waste more working hour to go there. Even in the heavy rain, in the flood situation, you cannot go there. You lose their job. They lose their jobs. So they cannot come out from the poverty due to lack of poor infrastructures. Another thing is lack of job opportunity. We are not saying that everybody will go for job, but even in livelihood, there is a shortage, lacking of this. Then the poverty is there. So we need to create a lot of employment generation. Otherwise, you cannot come out from the poverty. Other things is the reserve. reserve is safe during any disaster like this. The flood situation is like here. So all the reserves, they are extracted. They sell their assets, they sell their property, or they sell their labor upfront for getting food in this crisis situation. So they have no reserve. So this poverty is a vicious cycle of poverty due to lack of reserves. So this is some issues I raise. There is a lot of issues for causes of poverty. So second question you asked from my side, that how technology giving some support and uplifting to the women in Bangladesh through micro entrepreneurship. Actually, the technology is essential for every and each business, especially in this time. Using technology is essential, but for micro enterprise in rural areas, it is very challenging. But we are trying. I will give you some example what we have done. Should I have some more time, or how many minutes I have?
So you can talk 1 minute more.
1 minute. Okay,
Yeah.
then one example is enough. So I will give you the bigger example, how the women entered into the micro technology in Bangladesh in 1997. I am the managing director of Grameen Telecom. This Grameen Telecom and Telenor, we made a joint venture and just established the company of Grameen Phone here, the biggest mobile network provider in Bangladesh. So at that time, what is our vision? Because at that time, 1% population have access to the land phone, and one mobile operator in Bangladesh. And it was so costly in the airtime cost as well as the mobile handset cost. It is not reachable by the even rich people. Ultra rich people can afford it. So at that time we start, and our thinking is it will be used by the poor peoples in Bangladesh. And this is a long history, but I will not go that history. But we started to create income generation or income opportunities through using technology. So how do we have done at that time? What we did at that time? We give loan from the Grameen Bank to our borrowers to buy the handset and with a connection. And the Grameen Telecom organized to give them airtime charges half of the market price. So this lady selling the mobile services in the rural areas to the peoples, those who have no handset. So everybody is coming to her house. Most of the people, those who need to call inside the Bangladesh and also abroad, they are coming to the ladies, village phone lady, they're calling in the morning to evening, and they're paying for the charges, and they're giving half money to the Grameen Telecom and keeping half money to her. So his livelihood goes up in such a way. Someone is very rich in this time as well. So up to 2010, 400,000 village phone lady was operating phone, and from there they just income a lot out of other income, because they are not selling every time phone call. It is in their house, they are doing other jobs, so it is extra income. So this way, the village women at that time, 20 years back, they came into the technology. So nowadays, what we are doing, we have one program named Young Entrepreneurship Development. So we are giving equity finance to the borrower of the, children of the borrower to go for different income generation activities. Out of this, I'll go you just some sort of name of the business, like computer, mobile, IPS service center they're operating. They're selling mobile handset. Someone is giving a small scale automobile workshop. The lady, we are giving finance to them. As well, they're putting 4 or 5 computers in the shop and train them in the rural areas to the student and earning money from there. And also we are giving some small scale industry operation in to give equity finance to them. Say, Bangladesh, lot of garments factories here. So they are buying a small piece of cloths called jute from the garments factory and making thread. And with this thread, they're making floor mat and others. So this is the technology they are using. And some young entrepreneurs, women, are now making sari. They're wearing this sari in Bangladesh by power loom. They're running power loom factory, 2-3 power loom they're operating. So in this way, we are bringing to use the technology and make some small scale or micro entrepreneurship through lending or equity financing by the Grameen organization. That's all from my side.
So thank you, sir, for pointing out the most important issues related to current scenario. So before move on to the next panelist, I would just like to inform to all the participants and audience that our program is on Facebook Live, and you can share from your Facebook account. Our academic team already given the link to your chat box, and if you have any sort of question, you can ask your question or write your question in the chat box. Then we will take your question. So now let's talk about another important SDGs, that is unemployment. And unemployment is always considered as a burning issue in all over the world. So on that note, I would like to know from Dr. Faiz Shah how young people are rediscovering their creative spark for zeroing poverty, unemployment, and net carbon emission. How they are actually speeding up the initiatives around the world. The third floor is yours.
Sir, please unmute your. Unmute your.
You have to unmute your microphone.
Can you hear now?
Yes.
So I was just saying, it's a pleasure for me to join you, and I apologize for the little tech glitch in the beginning. Right. Is how young people are rediscovering their spark in responding to the post-COVID situation on mitigating poverty and carbon emissions and so on. There are perhaps two possible answers to this. The first one is related to context. There are certain communities which we are familiar with in the development world, where certain things in life are taken for granted. The systems work, the healthcare system delivers, the education system delivers. And so when a disruption of the force and scale of COVID strikes, the first thing that happens is that the comfort zone shatters. And when that shatters, it takes with it a lot of the assumed confidence of communities. And for a while, just like shell shock, people are not able to react, let alone be creative. They can't even react to situations like that. And we have seen that happen in a number of countries, including some developed countries. So there's been this sense of disbelief that, this is what has happened. The other context is countries like ours. Countries like Bangladesh, as I was saying just a short while ago, are enormously resilient countries. Because yes, nothing of this scale has ever been experienced before. But as Ashraful Bhai was saying, there are climatic events, there are disruptions in life, there are all kinds of things. And our young people are more adaptable to responding to crises. So I am thinking that given the right enabling environments for our young people, I would see that our young people, what the Nobin program is doing and what some of the support mechanisms are doing in terms of rallying, equipping, and then relaunching young people into economic activity in Bangladesh and in other countries, in Thailand as well. I find that there is more hope in that spark being able to come out quickly. So that's the first question from first answer from two perspectives. The second perspective, again, and I don't know how much time I have. The second perspective comes from the impact. One was the context question, the other is the impact question. Now, for instance, if you look at what are the kind of creativity exercises that young people are doing in Bangladesh or in more developing countries, most of these creativity related activities are basically designed to create livelihoods. They are designed to create income generating and survival kind of livelihoods, right? Because a lot of people do not have the ecosystem around them that will deliver to them all the services as a given. Everybody has to pretty much do a lot of the groundwork themselves and pay for services on a cash basis, and therefore incomes are necessary. Savings are low, and everybody must survive and live and thrive on whatever they can make. Now, this kind of mindset that we have seen so successfully developed now by the Grameen family as well as some other very important players in Bangladesh is, I think, a major contributor to the resilience of young people. And that allows them, because they are used to thinking about surviving in a very tough as well as unstable economic environment for a lot of people, where services and facilities have to literally be found and achieved and used, I think the bounce back will be faster. So the impact of the preparatory work that some of our Grameen family members have done is now going to become visible, and the value of building people's resilience, their confidence and their adaptive spirit is now going to make itself visible. And I'm looking forward to hearing good and more stories from all the various Grameen family institutions. The other part of this other impact one is that young people must also be given this thinking that, you know, whatever they do have consequences. It's not just about earning money and taking it home and spending it. Whatever we do has actually larger consequences than our immediate surrounding. And COVID has shown us that in good as well as bad ways. And the way people rallied forward to help each other, the way people rallied forward to provide food or provide support and succor to older people, the way the medical profession just completely ignored their own well-being and safety and rallied forward to save people's lives has been unprecedented in this before, as we can see. And so I think the second part that has come out from the impact side is that we all realize that our lives are not just our lives. Our lives are very closely intertwined with the lives of others, not only surrounding us, but even beyond us. So if these two conversations can be brought together in a way, I can see that the resilience, the creativity, and then the sense of being a member of a much larger community than we are able to see will drive more people to creative outcomes and more bottom of the pyramid success stories. So I hope that I've not taken too much of my time.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful. So from your discussion, it is clearly understandable that young people are adaptable. So there is a huge, possibility to change the scenario. So we have right now, lots of participants who are actually young. We can consider them as the young people. So here I'm sure they will, contribute and will take responsibility. So now move on to our third zero of world of 3.0, that is 3 zeros, that is no carbon emission. So Dr. Markai, you know that there is a growing public demand for a rapid transition to a zero carbon economy. But global protests and youth climate striker are not enough to create that change alone. So companies need to take action. So what do you think about the conflict between technology and climate in the perspective of zero net carbon emission? So the floor is yours.
So thank you very much for this very interesting panel, and your very, very thought-provoking question as well. Recently, we see a lot of young people protesting, demanding governments and companies to be responsible and to cut carbon emission, because they clearly see the impact that if the global temperature keeps rising, so we're all will be in crisis, not just a few countries, but the whole world. But then protesting and asking is not enough. So I agree with you that something must be done. And countries have, many countries now have joined a coalition and tried to stop carbon emission by 2050, which is about 30 years from now. But then we have to understand the cause of carbon emission. The number one cause is transportation. It's about 28.5%. And then the second, electricity generation, it's 28.4%. And then industrial processes and activities for 14.3%. And then commercial and residential use, such as heating and waste disposal, etc., at 11%, and then agriculture for 9%. So if we cut down on these and we see all of these require new technology to be greener. And you know that 30 years is very, very short time. Young people might not think that 30 years is long, but in fact, it's like a stint. It's very fast. So it demands a rapid innovation, radical innovation, and support. And so young people, you are also part of the inventors to work on new technologies. And now what we see, just recently COVID, it was a bad, but it's also a very good testing ground. When people have to be in quarantine just for health reasons, they don't travel anymore. And then as they stay home or within their own, say within their short distance, and we see a clear cut on transportation, just daily transportation. And now we see clearer air and less emission. And so that means it demands for communication technology. And I'm happy that we now are talking through an online technology, and that allows us to still get connected, but then we don't need to travel and cause more problems. And so I don't see it's really a conflict for the new technologies that are coming, and then the with the demand and the wish of the people. But then old technology is still there. They have not been put in to be obsolete yet. So, but we need a quick transition now. And then, so transportation is not just mobility of people, but also mobility of goods. So that means that we need to cut down on transportation of goods. And so we need to find technologies that allow people to consume locally. And so that is not there yet. And then when we look at generation of technology, so we are now inventing new technologies that can emit less carbon. So for example, hydropower, or if you look at mechanical storages, and instead of just getting battery storages, that is not good for the environment. So we are in different stages of different technological developments for electricity generation. And right now we are still using coal, oil, and to generate electricity. And those technologies clearly create conflicts for our zero carbon emission mission. But I do hope that the new technologies will come up, and we only have 30 years to do that. And then we'll change, we need new technologies to change our industrial processes, and then it also change our way of living. And so now it's really an open call for young people now who are studying and trying to learn the new technologies and to put the old technology in away. So that is my answer to your question about the relationship. I would not say a conflict. I would say relationship between technology and climate change. So the relationship could be a sour relationship, or it could be a wonderful relationship. So our current technology and the old technology have very bad relationship with the carbon, with the climate change, with our life, and so now we are moving gradually to a better relationship, so that we will not damage the environment in which everyone shares. And so I'm happy to see the strong movement of social entrepreneurship, where companies take part in, so inventing the technologies, but also putting the pressure in the market by the demand for using a better, cleaner technology. Because ingrained of social businesses, they want to create positive social impacts while generating profits. So in order to create positive impacts, so it's not just their products that serve a certain community, create impact in certain communities, but also their own own activities have to be socially responsible. And not just programs like you are trying to instill in young people's mind, as well to change the old people's mind about how to be socially responsible and how businesses can play a big role in this movement.
So wonderful, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your point of view with us. And the one thing that you have mentioned, which is wonderful, that is, it's not a conflict, it's a relationship. So yes, our young people, our young generation can create or make this relationship in a positive way, in a sweet way, not in a sour or negative way.
Right.
So yes, right. Now I want to move on to Professor Dr. Muhammad Masum Iqbal as our past panelist wonderfully discussed about the contribution of social business towards 3.0. So my question to you is, sir, is social business movement reaching to a tipping point to attain 3.0? So the floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Khadija Rahman Tansi. I believe you can hear me, right?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Yeah.
It's a privilege for me to be with this distinguished panel members on this occasion. And personally, I pay thanks to Professor Mohammad Yunus, our Nobel laureate, for addressing these three issues and for bringing these three burning issues to the notice of the whole world. I am thankful, and we are thankful. And three aspects, like zero carbon emission, zero poverty, and zero unemployment. In fact, nothing is left for me to discuss. Our distinguished panel members have shed light on all aspects, and they discussed in details. However, I can share one or two points and how social business can be a means. As you have said that probably social business is not the only means, but it is the most viable way. One of the most viable ways to address, to curb these three issues. If I talk about the first one, carbon emission, Madam Maitai has mentioned, And Dr. Faiz Shah has also mentioned that we are making a lot of decisions and we don't consider the consequence. What would be its consequence? Probably it has a larger consequence, but in our existing business or existing structure, we don't focus on that. The consequence is in front of us. You see, COVID-19 has shown us how vulnerable we people are. And as we are talking about carbon emission, yes, with our system or following our existing business, we are polluting, we are contaminating our society, we are emitting carbon. And not only air pollution, I'm talking about soil pollution, I'm talking about air pollution, water pollution, I'm talking about soil pollution. In many ways, sound pollution, we are polluting our society, our environment. So our world is becoming more unlivable day by day. And probably if I give an example, our neighboring country, India, you know, New Delhi is a capital city of India, and there are so many oxygen parlors in India, in New Delhi. So people are having a hectic day, and at the end of the day, in the evening, they are getting back home. They are going to the oxygen parlor to buy oxygen, to have a fresh breathe in and breathe out. Okay, this is the situation in New Delhi. So probably, this is the consequence of our irrespective or decisions and contamination to the environment. I'm talking about air pollution, soil pollution, sound pollution, and so on. I mean, many ways we are polluting. So the world is becoming more and more unlivable. If I'm talking about two other aspects, zero poverty and zero unemployment, to some extent, I feel that these two are interrelated or intertwined. Okay, I believe. One, the youngsters, I'm talking about young people who are studying in the school, college, universities, as once they're becoming graduates, whether I'm talking about a school graduate, college graduate, or university graduate, after completion of their academic study, they are seeking jobs. So whenever we are seeking jobs in different corporations and different companies, basically we are working for other people. It is kind of, to some extent, as Professor Mohammed Yunus is saying, that it is kind of slavery. So we are working for the people who are doing business, and we are being exploited, we are being used for someone to make their money. Say, for example, and if I share a simple information with you, 1% people is holding 99% of the wealth of the world. So this information shows how discriminating the world is. And people are poor people are becoming poorer and poorer. On the other hand, the rich people are becoming richer and richer day by day, through our existing business system or existing system, existing society and cultural system. So here we need to address, and I believe if the young individuals, especially after the completion of their study, they become entrepreneurs, they're thinking of business, they start doing business, or that is a typical business or social business. If it is social business, definitely it will become more boon than bane. Once we start a business, it means that we are creating our own employment. At the same time, we are creating employment for other people. So we can control unemployment problem. At the same time, we can raise people over poverty level. So oil will not be concentrated to a particular section of the world, and it will be well distributed among the people of the world. So as you have mentioned that probably social business is not the only way, but it will expedite, it will facilitate to control carbon emission, to bring people out of poverty level, and to create more employment, and by which, as you have mentioned in the beginning of this session, that probably unemployment will be in the museum. So it is my strong belief that social business is one of the most viable means to address these three issues. As I'm talking about carbon emission, you see, business individuals are making decisions to run their business. But when we are running a social business, we will be more socially responsible. So whenever we are making any business decision, we will be more responsible. We will see the consequence. So probably we will be making more enlightened decisions, good decisions, which will be conducive for the environment, for the society, and for other people. So at this stage, that is all about. Definitely I'll be listening to other individuals. If needed, I'll be discussing later on. Thank you, Madam Khadija. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. You have actually discussed wonderfully and sum up the whole thing. So thank you, sir. I want to take one question from our participant, and this question is for Dr. Mathai. You can also check in the chat box. Kian Parasa, he asked, doesn't the low-cost carbon energy seem more economic to the industry? So it is discouraged for substitutes. So, ma'am, if you just can answer the question.
Thank you for your thought-provoking question. Well, it seems economic to only some actors at the cost of so many others. So some users and generators of these type of energy get profit. However, they create so many negative externalities that other companies, other organizations, other people have to pay for it. So in fact, it is not economic for the society as a whole. It is only economical and profitable for only a few actors. And then when we look at the development of a country or a human race, we have to look at social profit. That means the net profit for the whole society. These low cost energy create so many problems, and it costs so much to the societies. It costs actually negative profit for the whole society. But then, because it is so profitable and economical for few actors, they lobby for the continual use of these energies. And so they try to prevent others from using alternative. That's why we have to call for policymakers and also the markets, so consumers and other organizations, to put pressure against these few actors who want to put forward the continual use of low cost but highly polluting energy. So does it answer your question?
I hope so.
It is not economical for the whole society. It is only economical for a few actors. Right? So it creates the net social loss, and therefore every other actor in the society have to put pressure on these bad actors in order to look for and to develop substitutes that create net social profit. Right?
Right. Thank you, ma'am, for answering the question. So since we are running out of our time, so once again, I just want to directly ask the question to Dr. Faisha. Sir, would you please enlighten us by your idea that how Yunus philosophy could help to overcome the economic and environmental challenges? So.
Of course, I think anybody that's had the opportunity of reading through Professor Yunus's writings gets a very clear sense of how his philosophy is able to counteract some of the negative influences that our distinguished panels have talked about already, through empowering young people to be creative and to make space for them to implement that creativity through economic or enterprise-driven approaches. So I think that the general philosophy is very sound, and it is even more poignant now because we find that the way we have ended up with this pandemic is that local ingenuity, local solutions, local incentives, and local markets are now going to become even more important. And so all the time that what Professor Yunus has been saying, we've spent in empowering some of our groups to respond and be adaptive to, uneven incentives. These are the people now who, if they learn well from Professor Yunus's philosophy, will be able to address through enterprise-led mechanisms some of the social solutions that are relevant to the problems that local communities face. To be more specific, I think the big message from Professor Yunus's philosophy emerges from three things, basically. One is that you need to rely on yourself, your own ingenuity, your own reliability, your own resilience to